Ridley Scott's Napoleon has arrived in theatres, and after watching it, I think it's a well-made film, but one that I'm hugely disappointed by. The direction, the production work, and the central performances are all things that I feel very strongly of, but certain choices in the adaptation of Napoleon's history, the editing of the story, and the portrayed character work make this less effective than it could have been. I love Ridley Scott as a filmmaker, and I think he's given us some absolute historic movies throughout his career, but I do think that, like some of his more recent films, this had the potential to be much better. So in this video, I'm going to be listing the main reasons why I think Napoleon was a flawed adaptation of this historical figure, but one that still has a lot of very solid filmmaking. This video essay will contain brief spoilers, so if you do happen to be someone who hasn't seen the film yet, then I would recommend watching this video after you've seen it. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my upcoming content for auteur-driven films like Ridley Scott's Napoleon, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. But without further ado, let's dive into my thoughts on Napoleon. So Napoleon is a film that covers the French military commander's rise from outsider to emperor and eventually exile. It's a project that attempts to give us a deeper understanding of him personally and help us reflect on his fragilities as a man. We see it from the perspective of Joaquin Phoenix's Napoleon during the French Revolution, the siege of Toulon in 1793, and his rise to political power, showcasing his military and tactical dominance in the battles that occur across Europe. But this is contrasted by his relationship with his eventual wife, Empress Joséphine, played by Vanessa Kirby. Their turbulent marriage and struggles to produce an heir is something that gives the film its much needed storytelling and depth, and it's ultimately an element that I wanted much more of. That's because while Napoleon does have very effective moments when it comes to both of these central characters, the complete package feels like a greatest hits montage more than it feels like effective storytelling with a central thrust. As it went on, I couldn't help but think about the many scenes that are missing from this film, scenes that you'd either think would be in that 4-hour director's cut that Ridley Scott has spoken about before, or scenes that didn't work with the overall edit and vision. And this includes introductions to other characters or sequences of those acknowledging or challenging Napoleon's genius. When we do question this, it's either in the many moments between Napoleon and Joséphine, or in that excellently staged final battle of Waterloo that delivers the message I was desperate for this film to deliver on. When it comes to what was missing, one cannot help but point out the lack of plotting, no assassination plots during the French consulate, or no deeper unpacking of the revolution to begin with. It takes the main battles and beats from Napoleon's personal life and edits them together in tight-knit fashion. We get little screen time dedicated to his relationship with his brother, his older siblings, or his mother. Now, I get Ridley went for this stylistic telling of Napoleon as a figure, but if you're going to give us a greatest hits telling of his life, you need that deeper exploration of character to make us truly connected to what's going on. And again, maybe that 4-hour cut that's on the way will give us a lot more. Still, this is the theatrical release of the movie, and I think I was expecting much more when it comes to Scott's character depiction of the man and how he presents this story. What I will say is that the potential for it is there, and by the end, I was definitely on board with the approach of contrasting Napoleon's battlefield successes with his failure to find the love he so desperately needs from Joséphine. It's an endless struggle between two tough individuals, each dealing with their own anxieties. Taking that great foundation and exploring it a bit more is where this could have been a lot better. But while I'm disappointed by that particular approach in Napoleon, there are some really strong elements of this film that make me feel like Scott has still got it. With its $200 million budget, many of them are visual choices. Scott, with longtime cinematographer Dariusz Dowalski, shows his masterful approach to filming large-scale sequences beyond the use of CGI. And with many filmmakers and studios opting to use the latter, and much of the time use it in a bad way, I can't help but support Scott's approach in using the few VFX shots in complementary fashion rather than overdoing it. His focus on scale during these historical battles and seeing how he's evolved from films like Gladiator and Kingdom of Heaven gives us a somewhat culmination of his epic filmmaking career. But while the battle sequences are all expertly pulled off, they also feel like they serve a purpose, showing us new aspects of Napoleon's character and highlighting his development across the course of the runtime. We get a clear depiction of Napoleon's nerves during the Siege of Toulon, we see his genius in the Battle of Austerlitz with the many traps he sets, and then eventually the arrogance that blinds him during the Battle of Waterloo. How he balances Napoleon's outlook and dictating of the action against what it tells us about him internally is done so well, and I'd argue done much better than the dialogue-driven moments between characters. That being said, it's effective to see the back and forth between stunningly designed battlefields and dim-lit rooms of power, making you feel a sense of the history in every scene. So from a filmmaking and visual perspective, Ridley Scott's storytelling is just as powerful as it was back in the heights of his epic career. It's in the dialogue-driven scenes that I expected more character depth, and if it wasn't for the caliber of performers on show here, I think it would have turned out a whole lot worse. Joaquin Phoenix is as good as you would imagine, bringing a level of simplicity to his performance, but one that is effective with every glance or motion. His further outbursts communicate his fragility, and again a level of contrast between the many troubling aspects of Napoleon's life. We get a small hint of both his personal vulnerability with that of his public persona, and I can only expect that this will be even more effective in the 4-hour cut of the film. Now, there are things that others may find quite jarring though, and to be honest, this may just come down to taste. Whether it be the absurd moments of humour, or even the use of mainly British accents amongst many different figures from multiple nations. I personally was fine with the humour aspect, and I actually found it quite effective in the scenes it was used in. But when it comes to the issue with accents, it did take me out of it at times, and I think there could have been a different approach taken here. But yeah, as a whole, performance and filmmaking wise, the film definitely holds up, and if you think that this will drive your enjoyment of the film, then you'll probably end up liking a lot of what Ridley Scott has to offer. In my opinion, Napoleon had the potential to be much more. The 2.5-hour theatrical cut gives us a quick summary of the historical figure, transitioning between his relationship with Joséphine and effective battles that extend from the political. Many scenes from the trailers don't appear in this cut, and you can only predict that with extra time, Scott could really flesh out the characters even more, the relationship between Napoleon and Joséphine, and make the whole thing that much more effective from a storytelling perspective. While not everything is accurate from a historical point of view, my problem isn't with that, but rather the way this theatrical version is put together. Scott isn't focused on conveying every aspect of history to film, he's interested in artistically and visually communicating the important ideas of a story or figure to the big screen format and fully realising his Hollywood epic. That aspect is something that mostly works, and I have no issue with a unique approach being taken. A lot of what does work takes place in the battle scenes, and especially the final act of the film, with the Battle of Waterloo and the depiction of Napoleon's failed relationship with Joséphine. But with all that working, there's much of the film where more character depth is definitely needed, especially in the dialogue scenes that are meant to give us exactly that. As they are, we are given a bullet point telling of Napoleon's rise. So again, it leaves me thinking that maybe the 4-hour version of the film will give us that depth and allow many scenes to have a lot more breathing room. Some might like the approach to the way it was put together, and there's no denying the potential of it, but I personally think that the overall execution from a character and storytelling perspective was quite disappointing. But that was my review for Ridley Scott's Napoleon. The filmmaker's latest film has its undeniable strengths, whether it be the pure visuals that he's crafted for the big screen, or the scale and importance of the battles, showing Napoleon's intellect during them. However, in many areas it does feel like it's lacking, and I think there's a lot of room for improvement. If anything, the things that work excite me for what the director will do with his extended cut of the film, and also with his Gladiator sequel too, but then when it comes to the storytelling and characters, I do hope that Ridley will focus a lot more on them. We'll have to see, but I'm hopeful that Napoleon can act as a somewhat step in the right direction for his future work. I'm giving Ridley Scott's Napoleon a rating of 6.5 out of 10. But to those who have already seen the film, what do you think of Ridley Scott's Napoleon, and do you agree that it's a solid film, but one with many flaws? Again, it's all subjective, and I appreciate a range of reactions and reviews, so let me know down below in the comment section what you thought towards it. For more videos on the work of Ridley Scott and other auteur-driven films, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.